Tottenham Hotspurs are currently 15th in the table, only 8 points ahead of relegation. The last time Spurs finished in 15th in the league was 31 years ago. And to give this a little bit of perspective, Blackburn Rovers, yes, Blackburn, finished second in the league that year, as well as Oldham Athletic and Swindon Town still in the Premier League. So today I'm taking over and we're going to be rebuilding them to Champions League glory. Due to injuries to the squad, we're quite limited to who we can field right now, so tactically we're going to be running a 4-3-3 defensive formation to utilize our best available players. And with only a few days left in the January transfer window, we're going to be using our budget of $135 million to bring in someone Spurs brought in on loan in real life. We're going to be bringing in Matthias Tell from Bayern Munich for only $45 million. And up first in our first Premier League game was Leicester City, and thanks to Jamie Vardy's shot hitting off the woodwork, we narrowly escaped with a 0-0 draw against the Foxes. After that, our leaky defense allowed just too many goals, with Wassa scoring a brace against us in a 2-3 loss away at Brentford. But after our shaky start, in our third match, our fortune started to turn around, as Kulusevski rifled a shot past Onana in a 2-3 victory over Manchester United at home. And with a decent run of form throughout March and April, we found ourselves 12th place in the league with 5 matches to go. But dropping points to the likes of West Ham, Liverpool, and Aston Villa sees us remain in 12th place with only a single game left. But hold up. Yeah, that's right. Your eyes do not deceive you. We have qualified for the Europa League final versus Manchester United, and a chance for Spurs to actually win a trophy. 19 minutes into the game, we had our first chance. A free kick ending on the head of Van de Ven, whose shot was saved by the keeper, keeping the score level. After that, Antony had a perfect chance to go ahead, but missed a shockingly wide open net to keep it even. The pressure was now on. Kulusevski found a bit of space but narrowly hit it wide of the post, which led us into 0-0 by halftime. But in the second half, it was a whole different story. Pedro Porro found Kulusevski, who led to our first goal of the game, putting us 1-0 up. Late into the game, Brennan Johnson found Kulusevski at the back post, who volleyed it home for his second goal of the game. And shortly after, none other than Kulusevski created his own solo goal for his third of the match, securing his hat-trick, as well securing the Europa League title. And along with getting Spurs their first trophy in a long time, we also qualify for Champions League football for next season. Jumping straight into Season 2, we were able to turn our initial budget of $88 million into $273 million, with departures such as Richarlison to Man City for $34.5 million, Bissouma to Liverpool for $24.5 million, Solomon to Leipzig for $24 million, and the biggest departure of them all, Heung-min Son, is headed to Aston Villa for $67 million. And with our newfound wealth, we are desperately in need to bring in some new recruits for the squad. The first of which being a pair of marquee signings, World Cup winner Julian Alvarez from Atletico Madrid for $108 million, and also Portuguese youngster João Neves from PSG for $79 million. Those new starters were followed up by 2 bench players for us, Ryan Cherki from Lyon for $40.5 million, and Christian Mosquera from Valencia for $26.5 million. As for the tactics this season, there have been a few changes. We have switched to a 4-2-3-1 formation in which in possession turns into a 2-2-5-1 to try and keep possession and keep the ball in the opposition's half as much as possible. But with these new changes, our team needed a little time to adjust, as in our first game of the season, Isak scored a brace against us in a 3-0 loss against Newcastle. This was followed by our second game of the season. We unfortunately drew 2-2 against Brentford, as well as in our third match despite a Matthias Tell masterclass where he scored a hat-trick. A second half collapse allowed Burnley to score 2 late goals, leading to a 3-3 draw at home. But as we were moving through our games in early November, something crazy happened. To my shock, the Ballon d'Or cutscene popped up to show David Beckham handing one of our players, Julian Alvarez, the Ballon d'Or, crowning him the best player of the year. Absolutely shocking. With that, we carried a good run of form, which found us in 6th place with only 2 losses by the end of November. If we cut down on the draws, we should be in a great spot to meet our goal of qualifying for the Champions League next season. Speaking of Champions League, we opened up with a draw to Real Madrid, followed by a win against AEK Athens, a draw against Bayer Leverkusen, and a loss to PSG, which put us in 22nd halfway through the league phase. This season, Matthias Tell has been absolutely lighting it up for us, finding himself tied second in the Golden Boot race, helping us to key victories against Aston Villa, West Ham, and Nottingham Forest to see us in 7th place in the league halfway through the calendar year at Christmas. And because we are still drawing too many games, I have tweaked the tactics a little bit, dropping the fullbacks further to try and give more support to the center backs. These tactics helped us greatly with the rest of our Champions League matches as we drew against Olympiacos, got wins against Werder Bremen and Dynamo Kiev, and another draw to Athletic Bilbao, resulting in us finishing in 12th in the league phase. And since we finished in 12th, we had to go through a playoff round in which we play Bayer Leverkusen. And in the first leg, thanks to a wild Victor Boniface finish, Leverkusen was able to defeat us in the first round 3-2. So in the second leg, we have to beat a very decent opponent. This should be a close one. Except it wasn't. By halftime, thanks to 2 goals by Matthias Tell and 1 by Kulusevski, we were up 3-0. And in the second half, it was no different, as Julian Alvarez got on the score sheet, as well as another goal from Matthias Tell for his hat-trick, and even Ryan Cherky scored one in a 6-0 battering in the second leg against Bayer Leverkusen. And after our demolition job, we found ourselves against Atletico Madrid in the round of 16, where in the first leg, Angel Correa was found at the back post to put us down 1-0. And we were no match for the Atleti low block, resulting in a 1-0 win in Game 1. That meant we have to go into Madrid and make a comeback against another very solid opponent. And in the 12th minute, we got off to a great start, where Madison was played through on goal to smash his shot into the back of the net, putting us up 1-0. And in the late minutes of the game, Matthias Tell smashed home an absolute screamer to put us through to the quarterfinals. Our quarterfinal matchup was against Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce, of all teams, where we got off to a rough start as Uguz put one away on us to go down 1-0 early. But this was very short-lived, as Kulusevski equalized from inside the box, followed by Julian Alvarez finding Matthias Tell, who put away a shot to put us in the lead 2-1. After that, Julian Alvarez squared the ball to Tell, who bricked one of the worst shots I've ever seen. Tell then shut me up by hitting one of the craziest shots I've ever seen, scoring from distance to put us up 3-1. Skipping forward to the end of the first half, Maddison found some space in the box and put his shot away, putting us up 4-1 at halftime. But just like in the first half, Fenerbahce came out firing. En-Nesyri finished a near-post shot followed by another scrappy goal by him to close the gap to 4-3. Luckily, Matthias Tell was able to score another goal to close the game out 5-3 in an absolute thriller. And in the second leg of the quarterfinals, Kulusevski scored a brace to help us in a 3-2 victory to put us through 8-5 on aggregate to send us to the semifinals. Before we get into the semifinals, in the Premier League, we had a strong run of form, including a win against Liverpool, which put us third place in the league with only 5 matches to go. But the table is extremely tight. 3rd and 7th are only separated by 3 points, meaning the door is still wide open. Semifinals time, and we got off to a great start. James Maddison found some space on the top of the box and hammered in a screamer to open up the scoring. After that, Real Madrid had a brilliant chance after a deflection straight to Mbappe, who missed the easiest chance of the entire game. Afterwards, Matthias Tell did what he did best and found the bottom corner to put us up 2-0. But late in the second half, the ball was squared to Mbappe, who wasn't going to miss this time, to make the game 2-1 at halftime. And at the start of the second half, we had a brilliant chance, but Kulusevski's shot hit against the post to keep the score 2-1. Late into the game, Mbappe had another chance to score, but he ended up missing it wide, causing us to win the first leg of the Champions League semifinal. But in the second leg, reality set back in, as Real Madrid were too much for us, and they ended up winning 2-0, knocking us out of the Champions League. This means we have to set our focus back on the Premier League to qualify for Champions League next season. Sneakily, in the background, we have made it all the way into the FA Cup final against Man City with a chance at another trophy. But just like in the UCL, in the 85th minute, Erling Haaland rifled a shot near post past Vicario to make Man City the FA Cup winners. But moving back into the Premier League, we ended up losing 2 out of our next 3 matches, putting us in 5th place with only a single game left to play. The table is extremely tight, and even though we sit outside of the top 4, there is still some hope. 3rd place Arsenal is playing against 6th place Newcastle, and 4th place Manchester United is playing against 2nd place Aston Villa. And we are left with the easiest matchup playing against 18th place Everton, so we're looking to jump the table. And in our match against Everton, it took all the way to the 69th minute for someone to score. Solanke chipped an amazing through ball into Ryan Cherky, who volleyed it home to put us up 1-0. And in the dying moments of the game, Bryan Gil found some space and smashed it past Everton's keeper to secure our win 2-0. We have now done our part, fate is now out of our hands, and we did manage to get top 4 with Newcastle winning against Arsenal, dropping them out and putting us in. So we have qualified for Champions League football next season. Jumping straight into season 3, we have some departures, including Christian Romero for 50 million, Udogie for 64.8 million, Bryan Gil for 48 million, Sarr for 74 million, and Reguilon for 9.5 million. And using that budget, we're going to be able to bring in Camavinga from Real Madrid for 143.2 million. As well as Alphonso Davies from Bayern Munich for 82.3 million, Gaia from Valencia for 24.1 million, and finally Ruben Diaz from Man City for 92 million. After all of those signings and departures, this is what our team looks like. The formation is a little bit different, but we're running the same basic concept in possession in game. This year's focus has to be the Champions League, and at the end of the league phase, we finished in 6th place, automatically qualifying us into the round of 16. And our round of 16 opponent was against Stuttgart. And thanks to Julian Alvarez and Kulusevski getting on the scoreboard, we won our first leg 2-0. And in the second leg against Stuttgart, Pedro Porro scored an absolute screamer of a free kick in a 2-1 victory, sending us through 4-1 on aggregate against Stuttgart. In the quarterfinals, our opponent was FC Barcelona, where in the first leg, Brennan Johnson scored the lone goal in a 1-0 victory. And in the second leg, thanks to goals from Matthias Tell and Julian Alvarez, we won the second leg 2-1, putting us through to the semi-finals. And in the semi-finals, we were playing Sporting Lisbon, where in the first leg, we got off to a great start. 2 minutes into the game, Kulusevski's put away his shot to open up the scoring. But shortly after, Gyökeres answered back, evening the score. Later into the game, Matthias Tell scored 2 quick goals back-to-back, putting us up 3-1. But Sporting were not going down without a fight, as Gyökeres scored another, making the final score 3-2. And in the second leg, though, it wasn't as close. Julian Alvarez scored a brace in a 4-0 stomp down, putting us into the Champions League final. And having a quick look at the Premier League before we get into the final, we finished in 6th place, which means we have to make the most out of this opportunity and win it this year, or else it might take a while for us to get Champions League football again. And in the Champions League final, we're going to be playing Aston Villa. Let's get into it. And here we are, kickoff in the Champions League final against Aston Villa. Here we go. Madison finds Kulusevski out wide. You know what? I'm going to whip this in. Back post. Can't find it. Neves finds Madison. Madison doing a bit of dancing. Alvarez finds Tell. He finishes it. And in the 20th minute of the Champions League final, Matthias Tell puts us up 1-0. You love to see it. Good cross, great finish. Let's go. Julian. Madison makes it 2-0 late in the game. Brilliant stuff. This should be all wraps if we just keep our composure, hold the game out, should see it through. And there it is, the final whistle of the Champions League final. Spurs have done it. They have won let alone a trophy, the Champions League final trophy. And if you did like this video and you're still watching, hopefully someone is, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and let's get into the trophy celebration.